Welcome to the LumiCast, your premier gateway to the universe of limitless photo editing. Dive into the galaxy of Luminar software and the dynamic world of AI photo editing. Join us weekly for a burst of creativity and the drive to transform your photos with confidence and skill. Broadcasting directly from Clever Photographer headquarters, it's time to welcome your hosts, Jakub and Holly Linton.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of LumiCast, our podcast where we talk about Luminar NEO and photo editing and photography. I'm Holly Linton from Northeast Tennessee, and next to me is Jakub, founder of Clever Photographer. How you doing today, Jakub?
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to LumiCast. I'm so excited for another episode.
What's our topic today?
Our topic today will be interesting for many users out there, I believe, because we're going to talk about 10 tips or 10 ways to speed up your Luminar NEO. What do you think, Holly? Is it going to be interesting?
I think it should be interesting because that's always a question. How can I improve the performance of Luminar NEO? So let's just jump right into it with our first one, which would be clearing our cache in Luminar NEO preferences. How do we do that?
Very good. We're starting straight from the cache. Well, actually, this is quite a recent update, the possibility to do this. I think that appeared this year, sometimes in the spring, I believe. It came as part of one of the updates, and we talk about the importance of running the updates a little bit later. Yes, so it's a feature that is saved in a preferences. Basically, you just click on the Luminar NEO logo, you go into preferences, and on the top, there is the cache section. Under it, that will usually show you how much of the cache you're using. It can be 1 gigabyte or multiple gigabytes. But all you need to do is just to click on the clear cache button, and that will remove the temporary files. Now, quite often I was asked in past if it's going to remove any of the edits or any information about your images. And no, that's not the case. It will just remove some temporary previews and mid edits and backups which already been overwritten by another backup. So it's perfectly safe to do that, and it really does save lots of space.
Well, I'm glad they added that because I know that was a big problem for a lot of customers. And so regarding that, then our next one would be adjusting the cache size when you go to that clear cache button. What's your recommendation for that?
So you're right under the clear cache is another section still focusing on cache, but you can adjust the size there. And we just discovered that actually by default, it varies. It's not same on all the computers. And my minimum suggestion is the 10 gigabytes there. Now, some people have less, some people have 5, 3, 4, 2, and that's just not enough. That generally, for normal work, for normal use of Luminar NEO, you would go at least for 10 gigabytes. If you can afford more, now this will depend on your hard drive where your Luminar NEO is installed, but if you can afford more, the better. So I think, Holly, how much is on yours?
My default is at 32. So what is that?
So that's perfect.
So I can leave that there?
Definitely. The more, the better.
Okay.
I'm now talking more about the minimum you should have it set to. Now, I know that it says set maximum cache to 10 gigabytes, but what I'm trying to say is that it should be always 10 or more. So if you're on 32, 35, 20, perfect. It will just means that the application will be able to use more space on your hard drive and it will go faster and smoother.
All right. Interesting. I don't know how high it actually goes, but what if someone had it like to the maximum? Could problems arise then?
And again, that will really depends on the size of your system hard drive. So let's say your system hard drive has 1 terabyte, then setting your cache to 30 gigabytes is no problem, right? Because that is 1000 gigabytes in 1 terabyte. But if your hard drive on a laptop, for example, is only maybe 150 gigabytes, then maybe 32 gigabytes is not great because it will try to take space from other applications and from your Explorer and so on. So if you have a massive system hard drive, that's no problem. You can go as high as it goes. If your space is limited, this is where you want to be a little bit careful.
All right, good. I think that's good information.
Good.
All right. Brings us to number 3 within the application, which is toggling your dynamic background on and off.
This one is a good one because I know that you love the dynamic background. So what do you have to say about that, Holly?
No, I remember back in the beginnings of even Luminar, I don't know if Luminar 4 had it, but Luminar AI had that dynamic background. and then Luminar NEO, but you would see it behind your catalog screen. You would see like a faint image of your picture, the picture that you were editing, and it would almost be moving, and it was distracting and disturbing. I guess a lot of people wrote in and said, please get rid of that. So that's what that dynamic background button is all about. So turn it off if you don't like it.
Exactly. And as you can imagine, that animation and that blurriness and all of that behind will definitely take some part of your computer performance away, because that's what it's completely and constantly doing. So anytime you shift to another image, let's say you're going through your images and you're marking them, or you preparing them for your edit, every time you click to next image, the computer's trying to recreate the background, and you can imagine that that is making the computer really busy for what I think is unnecessarily effect. Now, if you have a super fast computer, something like a recent, Apple with the M3 chip, then no problem. But if you're struggling, then I think this is unnecessary effect for me anyway.
All right. Well, good.
So I just had one more thing to add to this. And since we're still in the preferences, talking about annoying things, this is why I mentioned it, because you mentioned that the dynamic background can be a little annoying. I think that one more thing that can be a little annoying is, I don't know if you noticed recently, when you use some of the newer tools and when you use some of the AI tools like noiseless AI or super sharp or Gen AI, it kind of prompts you with a message if you like the result. It also does that when you try the auto adjust in a develop tool. And honestly, for the first time, it's kind of cool that you click on the little thumb up or thumb down. And for the second time and third time is okay. But when you keep doing that with every one of your edits, it can be super annoying. And there is actually a way to switch it off. And it's all the way at the bottom of the preference tab. There is a thing called analytics. And next to analytics, there is basically just on and off button. If you keep it on, it will send information to Skylum about the performance of the software, which is cool. But it will also send them information about this thumbs up and thumbs down. And if you don't like it, just switch it from on to off. And that way, this thing will disappear. So I just had it switched off because honestly, with every tool to answer that, it's just not much fun.
I'm going to uncheck.
Good.
I'll uncheck that button today. So next, we have our fourth item, which is use graphics processor, GPU acceleration. What does that mean?
So this will sound super complex, and let's not go deep into it. And usually the best way to try this is basically if your computer has a really good graphic card in it, you can have this on and it will help to build on the top of your computer performance. So the computer already performs with certain speed. And then a graphic card with really strong graphic processor can just help to it and just really enhance the performance of Luminar NEO. Now, what does it mean, decent graphic card or good graphic card? Honestly, the best way to do this is to try it. Switch it on. If it's off, see if the application performs better. If it doesn't, then switch it off and keep it the way it is. Or if it's the other way around, if yours is on and Luminar NEO is not really doing very well, if it's lagging, then switch it off. Try it, test it. And if it helps, leave it off or bring it back on. I think that's the best way to do this because we don't want to fall into the discussion about what is a good graphic card and what it isn't. And also it will vary based on your processor and it will vary based if you're using Windows or Apple machine and so on. But it's good to know that it's there. And it's definitely something that you can very easily test by simply just toggling the button on and off.
Great. I think people are definitely going to learn a lot in this episode.
Good.
So that brings us to our fifth item in the application settings, which is the use of several catalogs. So should we be using one catalog or multiple catalogs as a way of freeing up some resources or speeding things along?
So this is something I learned by teaching, also being educator, and also by running photography business when I was doing lots of photography. Back then, I was using mostly Lightroom Classic, and using one catalog was really confusing, and that was just mixing different projects together was really difficult. I started to create multiple catalogs. I would have a catalog for teaching, I would have a catalog for personal photos, and I would have a catalog for professional photography. And I have kind of brought this over to Luminar NEO with me. So now I have a catalog for teaching, I have a catalog for my professional work, and I have a catalog for, just kind of playing around. And now on the top of it, I also have a catalogs for example, courses. So when I do like sky replacement course or sky replacement masterclass, and I'm working just on that, I create a new catalog and I just have a pictures for that masterclass there and working just with that. And the advantage of it is that first, in overall, your catalog is much cleaner. So for example, if you go to all photos, rather than scrolling through 150,000, maybe there is just few hundred, or maybe there's even less, or maybe there is just 1,000. So it's much easier to navigate through that. When you go through things like the sample images and recently added and recently edited, it's much more manageable. And then, of course, for the performance itself, we know that the catalog, to do the preview of the images, that takes space and time to build these little thumbnails so you can actually see the image. And all of that is easier when it's in a smaller little catalog. So let's say 2, 3, 4, than one massive catalog altogether. So that would be my suggestion, to think about how you could use this for your benefit. Thinking, can I actually split my catalog? Is it okay? Do I have a certain project I would like to keep in one and maybe another project in the other one? And if not, it's okay too. But it's just a suggestion and something that can definitely help to speed up the process.
Of course, you and I are kind of the opposite. So I use one catalog, but I could see why you do it the way you do, because you're an educator and, you do workshops and things. So you have a need to keep things separated. Mm-hmm. Just like if someone is a family photographer, portrait photographer, they would want to divvy it up by clients and stuff like that. But for hobbyists who maybe are like me, where I'm just doing single image edits, and I've been keeping just a yearly catalog. So I'll just keep a 2025 Holly Linton catalog. And then at the end of the year, I'll just make a brand new one, because my catalog will only have maybe, if I do an edit a day, it might have 365 pictures in it or something like that.
To add on the top of it, I think your idea of having yearly catalog is also great because it's also safer. So let's say that for 3 years you've been using the same one and then something goes wrong, it gets spoiled. Then you lost 3 years, where I think we did that year. Of course, it's a heartbreaking anyway, but I think it's a safer option. I think that's a great idea. And also something that I do every January. I buy one big external hard drive. That's where I move all the pictures from that year as a backup. Mm-hmm. That goes into my cupboard. And I create new catalog for Lightroom for that year. So this is what I do. I still have all of my pictures on a hard drive connected to the computer, but I just always do like a cleanup in January where I just move all the images from that year into new hard drive. So yes, definitely a good idea on doing it. If not splitting the catalogs, at least creating a new one every year.
Great. So off to our next portion of our topic here, which would be the system and workflow optimization aspect. So keeping Luminar NEO updated would be an important way of keeping Luminar NEO speeding up.
Definitely. And I always see when the new update comes, I always see these comments around Facebook and Instagram and also on YouTube, people asking if it's safe to install it. And I completely understand that, because some of the updates were a little buggy and that they can actually end up being worse than before. But if it has been already 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a month, and there were no issues with it, then I think it's completely safe to update it. And actually, it's really important that you do that. For example, for the same reason we talked about earlier, you get the feature like the clear cache. So basically, you can speed up the application. Never mind the fact that they constantly trying to fix bugs in the application and speed it up. And you can clearly see the improvements from 3 years ago, 2 years ago, and where we are now. So this is why I think it's really important to keep it updated. Now, I would never have it set to update it automatically, because you can do that as well. I would always want to update it only when I want to, because one more time, you want to make sure that it's safe. I understand. But like I say, after a week or two, if everybody using it and it's fine, then you should be fine to install it and update it. So definitely keep your application updated, and that way you will get all the new tools, new features, and also the best performance you can.
And obviously, if there's an update and there are some glitches, because you do see on the forums, people will say, don't install it now because there's problems with it. Well, guess what? Skylum's going to react to that pretty quickly and then send out a little quick update following up with that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, we have managed 6 tips on how to speed up Luminar NEO. So we're going to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere, because we're going to come back and talk more about faster hard drives, how to restart your computer, how to clean and keep it clean, and how to upgrade your memory.
If you're listening to the LumiCast podcast, then we share something in common. We love editing photos, and we love Luminar. It's almost breathtaking what this amazing tech can do for you. On our website, you'll find countless different things to help you be more creative than you ever thought imaginable. From our photo manipulation masterclass to our power bundle with 986 elements, our essential preset bundle, editing software and extensions to our tutorials. Harness the power at the website at www.cleverphotographer.com/Luminar. Again, that's cleverphotographer.com/Luminar. Now, back to LumiCast.
Okay, so we are back with the second part of our today's episode where we're talking about 10 ways to speed up your Luminar NEO. Before the break, we were talking about the importance of keeping your Luminar NEO updated, and now Holly will tell us what's next.
Okay, we're going to do the external maintenance and hardware tips.
Wow.
So some of these might seem simple, but it could be something you forget to do. So for example, our first one would be using a fast solid-state drive for your catalog rather than a spinning drive, the old-fashioned way.
Definitely. And
right?
I think, that's a really important one. People don't realize the difference, but the difference is massive between the speed of these two hardwares. Never mind the fact that the HDD, how they used to be called, they were also really prone to failures. Like the amount of hard drives I went through is beyond belief. 26 hard drives I lost over the years. They broke, they damaged. It was a nightmare. So if you are not using SSD in 2025, I think you're just really restricting yourself. I think that's one of the most important things to do. And at the same time, yes, it is really important that you keep the Luminar NEO, the actual application, and its catalog and cache on that same drive. All of these three things should be together. So I know that some people, because of the space, they try to install their Luminar NEO on a different hard drive. So you have Luminar NEO on D drive, for example, and you have your cache and catalog on the C drive where the system is. And that already itself just creating lag because the two hard drives have to talk between each other. So it's really important that you use fast SSD drive as your main drive. And that's where your application and the software is installed, its catalog and the cache. That will be the fastest way to make it work.
All right. Our next item is close other intensive applications while you're using Luminar NEO. So if you don't need Photoshop or your web browser opened or any other programs, just close them all out. That will save you some speed and resources, right?
Yes. In ideal world, you would have everything open, right? Because we kind of get used to it now. We have this browser like Chrome open with 36 windows, and we have a Photoshop open and Lightroom open and maybe Aperture open and Premiere Pro cutting videos and so on and so on. Now, ideally, that would work, and it can, but if you're having an issue with the speed of Luminar NEO, this is the first thing and the easiest thing to take care of. Just close the other applications, close the internet browser, whatever you're using, Chrome or Firefox or whatever, and 100% it will help and improve for the simple reason because all these applications also using, your computer, but they also using your cache. So again, the size of the cache is getting bigger and bigger, and all of that is just demanding on your computer. So by closing all of that, you can definitely speed up the application.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We have a really, really easy one, which some people might forget about. Have you ever considered just turning your computer off and restarting it?
Wow.
Maybe even unplugging it, right? It's called like resetting your PRAM on a Mac.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it's called on a Windows, but it's like you just give it a little breather and then plug it back in and it springs back to life, perhaps.
Oh.
What is that? What is really happening when you turn it off and turn it back on?
So the difference on what happened will definitely differentiate between Windows and Mac, but regardless, you're right, it is 100% a good idea to do it regularly. Once a day, once a week at least is a minimum. Once a day is ideal. And the reason is very simple. Everything that clear out, all the cache which doesn't need to be there, all the temporary memories and everything just get reset. Also, when you do that, quite often you maybe update your computer actually. If there are some important update that needs to be done, it will also be done as a part of the restart. And when you come back, you will start with a clear head.
Mm-hmm. All right. That's worth a try. All right. Our 10th item here is upgrade your RAM if possible. If we don't have a computer that kind of follows the system requirements of Luminar NEO, like this, what do they say, 16 gigabytes of RAM to run Luminar NEO. Should people be seeing if they can do an upgrade?
So the RAM, the memory, this is where all the temporary and virtual files are saved when you're working, so it really helps the computer to keep the memory of what you're doing. So that's really simple in that way. If you have a 16 gigabytes on your computer and the application is slow, more likely it's not the memory, so you don't have to worry about it. But less than 16 can be tricky, definitely. So if you get like 8 or 4, that is just not really enough to run the application smoothly. So definitely upgrading it or updating it, well, upgrading it, I guess, will help. So 16 is the minimum. You can have 32, you can have 64 and so on. It is easier to update it, upgrade it on Windows machines generally because, you can almost do it yourself. On my old Mac, I was also able to do it myself, but on the new one, no, because it's just there. So you really just have to check. But generally, there is lots of websites where you can buy the memory extra and you can just key in the details of your computer and it will tell you if it's possible or not. Or of course the safest option is to take it to a computer shop and they will do it for you, so that probably is the safest option because regardless which machine you're using, you will have to be opening it and removing stuff and inserting stuff. So you want to try to stay as safe as possible. But from the technical point of view, 16 gigabytes and more will definitely help. Honestly, you don't need more than 32 gigabytes to run Luminar NEO. It will just not use it. There are other things you can update, like the speed of the hard drive or extra space for the hard drive or the actual graphic card or maybe the computer itself. The memory, it doesn't need more than 32. So if you have 16 or 32, you're good on that point. If you have less, maybe it's worth to investigate. And I think we have a little bonus point, yes, to add.
We do, an 11th point.
Yes.
Which I find this interesting because I never heard of doing this before. You say work with JPEGs or smaller RAW files when previewing your images. I've never thought about this.
So this says when everything fails, Holly, when you did all the 10 points above and you're really still struggling and you want to use Luminar NEO, you can do this. You can basically, let's say, transfer or export or turn your RAW files into JPEGs. Then try presets on them or try some of the big edits on them, see if it's working for you, and then go ahead and apply it to the RAW file. Now, it's crazy to do that, but it can really speed up the process because Luminar NEO will much faster edit JPEG compared to RAW file or big TIFF file. So I would never recommend to do it to somebody who have a Luminar NEO and it's work fine. But if you're really struggling and if you really want to use the tool, this is very kind of brutal workaround, but it works. So
desperate times call for desperate measures.
Exactly. No, I'm thinking computer from 2018, 16.
Okay.
With small RAM.
Yeah.
And you still want to use the application. This is one way around it.
And then put on your list for Santa that you need a new computer for Christmas.
Definitely.
All right. Do we have time for one last thought? Because
definitely
you might know the answer to this. What do you think about apps that help clean up your computer? For a specific example, there's someone who told me I should use CleanMyMac. Have you heard of that program? Then there's another person who says, why do you use CleanMyMac? You shouldn't be using that. So I don't know which is right or wrong. CleanMyMac lets me click a button that says optimize your system. It forces you to clean up your trash can, stuff like that. So there's controversy. I guess some people say it's good. Some people say it's not necessary. How do people know what to do with these types of apps that are out there?
Oh, that's a great question. And honestly, this could be a whole episode where we could bring our friend Dale Scott and he would be great for this. But in overall, so yes, there is lots of different apps and plugins and tools that can help you to clean your computer. Fortunately, I would say from my experience, about 90% don't work. You install them, they pretend they do something, and ultimately, as you said yourself, they empty the trash bin. Maybe they go and clear the cache if you're lucky, and that's about it. Now, there are some which can be helpful, but I had a very on and off experience even with this CleanMyMac. The thing is what it does, obviously it works on subscription, so you have to pay yearly or monthly for that. And it seems like the application constantly finding what else you could clean and basically keeps you in the feeling that you need the application. So it's not like this one-off you install and you clean your computer and you don't have to worry about it again. It just becomes more and more frequent. That's my experience with it, So let's say I do it once a week and then once a month or the other way around, once a month and once a week. And it just seems like it needs to be done all the time. So I haven't necessarily seen it as a big advantage. Now, one advantage what it has is that it can look for example, big files. So it can find your massive files on your computer you maybe don't know that you even have, Like I have some video files I have been working on 5 years ago, and this tool helped me to find it, and then I can remove it because I don't need it, or it can look for duplicate files and stuff like that. But it's just up to the listeners to see if the subscription or the payment for that software is worth this simple feature, which is, looking for duplicates, looking for large files and clearing the computer. Generally, I think do a little bit of research, try to see what people are using, what they like, and then try it yourself.
Yeah. All right. Maybe that will be a topic one day, because I don't know how anybody would know what is right or wrong, even, or how to clear up some things in your computer. There probably are a few processes you can run to free up some things on your own without an application, but people aren't savvy enough to know what that is. So, yeah.
It just seems very strange to pay all this money for like a Mac computer and then have to buy application to clean it, It just seems... You know what I mean?
I'll just take my dust rag and my Windex and clean my computer that way.
Yeah, you should do that anyway.
No, actually. No, don't ever put Windex on your computer screen.
Don't try this at home.
Don't try this at home.
Okay, folks, so that was our 11 ways to speed up the Luminar NEO. Holly, did you learn something new?
I did, yeah.
So did I.
I always learn something new. So I hope everyone's system is up and running, fresh and clean and fast after this episode.
And if you have another tip or additional tip on how to speed up Luminar NEO, please let us know in the comments under the podcast. Folks, thank you very much for joining us. It was a lot of fun. Holly, thank you again.
Thank you, and bye everyone. We'll see you next time.
Have a great weekend, and see you next Friday.
And that's a wrap. Now, there's only 3 things left to do. Subscribe to this podcast so you never miss a future episode. Visit our website at cleverphotographer.com/LumiCast to see what we have in store next. And stay creative and keep editing your photos no matter what anyone says.